Guru Kripa Kevalam. Namaste and welcome everyone to Satsang today. Sadguru Sri Muji Baba ki Jai. Wishing all of you full joy, full love in this auspicious occasion of the birth of Jesus Christ. May his message of love and his very direct pointings to the heart of this truth reach all of us. And may we all dwell in the light that he has left fully shining for all of us to be guided with, follow, and immerse ourselves in his presence, in his love. May all ideas of separation, all the distinctions that we make, may all of these seem like alien concepts now. May we go beyond all definitions into that which is fondly called Father. May you and all of your families also enjoy everything there is to enjoy in this world. May all that is auspicious come in your paths. But most importantly, may you find that which is beyond this world. As Jesus himself said, don't be concerned with this world and the things in this world. All my love, all my blessings to all of you. Sri Jesus Christ ki Jai. So now what? Christmas celebration?
Without Shanti, it doesn't feel Christmas.
Shanti is there.
Like, she was the one who actually brought everybody together the last Christmas.
Yes?
The before that,
Uh-huh.
that she was here.
Good. The most often repeated in Satsang here quote by Jesus is only the children enter the kingdom of heaven. And that is in a way the crux of what is being pointed to. This children is not that It's too late for all of us. Only the children enter, so no chance for any of us. It's not like that. What is this children that he's talking about? This innocence. This innocence, empty of this heavy burden of knowing, empty of this heavy burden of knowing, this return to the beginner mind. The true knowing actually gets neglected in a way in all that we think we know. Many will say that we were happiest as children. Happiest as children. How come? But you were quite dumb by worldly standards. Like, if it is all about knowing stuff, then you should have been the most unhappiest as children because you didn't know anything in your head. That itself is a good clue. So this knowledge has burdened us. And actually, what have we come to know? How to trouble ourselves. We have learned how to trouble ourselves. So, now what to do? Now what to do? Since we've made this journey from innocence to loss of innocence, is there a way back? And Jesus said, I am the way, follow me. So what was the way? What is the way back to this innocence? You realize that as you let go of your ideas about right and wrong, good and bad, you come face to face with a deeper intelligence, which is your very nature. Your very nature is supremely intelligent. But because it cannot be fit into a small box, which we call the mind, we feel like if I let go of the mind, then I don't know anything. How will I run my life? But your life is not being run by the content of this tiny box. If you were to just rely on what you know in your head, you could not breathe, you could not move your mouth, you could not move your hands, because in our minds we don't know even the most basic things. So letting go is not difficult and it is no trouble. But first you have to let go of all expectations that you may have even from the letting go. If you make a design, you see, and say, I try to achieve this design of my life through worldly ways, and now I want to achieve it in spiritual ways, then that is not what letting go is about. You just let go and I will get exactly what I want. So let go of these expectations about what should happen. You see, because they prevent you from seeing things as they are, from seeing yourself as you are. So if we follow what Jesus said and not be concerned about the world and the things in this world for a moment, and we let go of everything that we think we know and return to our childlike innocence, have we lost our way or found our way? Have we lost our way or found our way? This is the beautiful discovery. When we leave everything that in our minds we think shows us the way, then we come to the way of God. So don't define yourself in any way. There's too much definition and separation in the world today. Christ did not come to make anyone Christian. Krishna did not come to make anyone Hindu. They were pointing to the highest beyond all distinction. So it doesn't matter which voice you follow. But don't define yourself in limited ways. Just conversationally, perhaps. So if you take everything which is phenomenal to be the world, everything which is phenomenal to be the world, what is there besides this world? That is the kingdom of heaven. So Shanti reminded me that Jesus said that the kingdom of God is within. So this kingdom is where you already are. It is outside this, out of this world, and yet the world is nothing but itself. So this kingdom of God is where you are, and nothing that anyone can do and you can do to change that. It is always your home. Yourself is your eternal home. You cannot jump out of there and become just phenomenal. So, to have insight about this, to come to this truth as your living insight, is called Satsang. And everything that points you to this eternal home is Satsang. And everything that identifies you with this kingdom of objects is not Satsang. So Satsang is not really a place or an environment. It is those clues that you leave for yourself to come home. So, how can we come back home to a home that we never leave? Just like sitting here, you can imagine that you are in some other strange world, you see? And you are reminded that that imagination is not real. You have never left this place. In the same way, you come to this recognition. You have never left your true home. All of this is just in your head. Your physical head is just also in your head. All in your mind. Where are you watching this world from? Is it from the kingdom of objects? Where are you watching this world from? What you're watching is the world of objects, yes. Which world are you looking out from and seeing this world? Try to jump out of there into this world. Can you do it? Jump out of wherever you're watching all of this from and jump into this world. Can you do it? You can only believe that you have. You see? And in a way, all beliefs are that belief. All the ways in which you define yourself, you see, is just that misidentification as what you are perceiving instead of that which is aware even of perception. So, the way is very simple, simpler than simple, nothing to do. Our struggle is all fake. To struggle means we already must have an idea of where we want to go, what something must be. It is impossible to struggle unless you have a plan. If you have a plan for freedom, you will struggle. If you have no plan, nowhere to get to, not concerned with anything that may appear or disappear, is it not apparent to you that you are just aware? And is it not apparent to you that not only are you aware, there is nothing to you besides this awareness itself? And if you didn't want to use this discovery in some way, if you didn't want anything out of this, then no struggle can remain. We see that we are this awareness itself, and the notion of desire does not live here, cannot penetrate into this reality. And without desire, we cannot struggle. We have only imagined that we are bound, that we are stuck in this world. No bondage has ever happened. We have built a prison of ideas which we believed will help us, but actually it only seems to bind us. So, in your heart, in the heart of consciousness, when there seems to arise this longing to just come home, just come back to the truth, to the end of this play. No power in the world can stop that or postpone that. Because your reality is where you are already. So when this inexpressible desire, not for anything in this world, arises in our heart, it only longs for the company of the truth, to come to the truth of what it is. Then there is no journey left actually. God for God's sake, truth for truth's sake. Many will confuse a mental desire, you see, for something in this world, and maybe it is a bit confusing to the intellect and therefore remains inexpressible. You see? And many will confuse that as a desire to come home. You see? Many confuse that as a desire to come home, and that's why the path seems to seem longer. Because what we want is the bells and whistles in this worldly play. So it is not necessary that if the longing or desire is inexpressible, it must be for the truth. And that actually gets clarified once you come to Satsang. What do you really want? Because you can have this inexpressible longing for just this wordless reality. Or you may have some conceptual notions which may be confusing you, and therefore you are not finding yourself articulate enough to express them. Now, as you come to Satsang, there comes a point where you will really realize there is truly nothing in this for me. There's truly nothing in this for me. It is only for that truth which has remained unchanged anyway. Of this, I have no doubt about. Of this, I have no hesitation in making this claim. That if you just want the truth of what you are, the reality of your eternal self, then it is available to you in every satsang. But if freedom is just an idea that you have that leads to some other phenomenal perks, you will realize in satsang that there is no interest here at all in any of that. You see? And many will keep hearing this and thinking he's not really telling us the full story. There must be something that I will find. You see? But it is not that way. It is not to help our idea of me at all. You see? We think that we are special enough already. We don't need anything more to make us any more special. So, in satsang, this play gets clarified a bit. And if you truly want truth for truth's sake, if you truly want only this kingdom of God, irrespective of how this world of objects plays out, then that is here for you now. But whatever else you may feel like this is about, it is just not it. So, if your heart is clear, then your inner insight becomes laser pointed. If you are still confused and deluded by worldly desire, then it can seem like our inner insight is blurry. So maybe I can give you some simple advice about this. Don't expect any worldly outcome from satsang. Don't expect any worldly outcome from satsang. Not even what you are feeling, because even that is a worldly outcome. Now, if it seems impossible to drop all expectations of worldly outcome, then keep expectations of worldly outcomes to things or activities on the world, in the world. You see? But in your spiritual life, in what you're hearing in satsang, don't expect that to lead to anything worldly. No perks, no benefits, not even peace. Don't expect anything out of this. Because it is this that makes you confused. It makes that which is the most obvious seem most obscure. Krishna said very clearly that the way to come to an end of this cycle of birth and death, the cycle of suffering, is to come to true self knowledge. But the only precondition to that true self knowledge is we must let go of our attachment to actions and their fruits, actions and their outcomes. And we must apply that to our spiritual endeavor, especially. You see? So, if you feel like coming to satsang is an action, and therefore you have an attachment to that action and its fruits that you expect to find something as a result of that, you see, then that precondition is not met. You see? So, if you cannot apply it to your entire life, at least apply it to satsang. You see? Come to satsang as if you are a child going to play. You're not expecting to build your muscles. You're not expecting to get a return gift. Nothing at all. You're not expecting to, when you're playing, you're not saying, oh, can I keep this fun that I'm having for when I'm doing homework also? You're just enjoying moment to moment whatever is showing up. You're not burdening yourself with past and future, with action and inaction, with cause and effect. None of this. In the playground, no child is also saying, am I having fun? Am I having fun? Am I? Is this working yet? Am I there yet? None of that. You're not trying to hold on to something. You're fully fresh, fully open. And in this freshness, in this openness, what you are is completely clear to you. Completely clear. In the true place. And what is the true place is also completely clear. But the minute you try to intellectualize any of this or conceptualize any of this, it seems to be, it's no longer playground. So one says, Dear Father, when you allow things to come and go, this requires also the detection of all those thoughts. Some thoughts go unnoticed. So, is there an effort to identify all thoughts? You used a term which said go unnoticed. Many thoughts go unnoticed. Many thoughts don't even have an attraction for our attention. Forget about identification or belief. You see? So that which goes unnoticed, please allow it to go unnoticed. You don't have to bother with any of that. You see? Don't have to bother with any of that. Then you say, also, is self-inquiry different from being open and empty? You see? In a way, yes. In a way, no. But let me explain. The yes part, the no part is almost impossible to explain. The yes part is that being open and empty is what I call the prerequisite to inquiry. As you are open and empty, to check on who we are is very straightforward, very clear. As you are open and empty now, you are not confused about who you are. You truly know in your heart who you are right now. Your head will not believe this. Is it? Your head will only come up with doubting thoughts. But right now, you are open and empty, and you are not confused. Your true self-knowledge is completely clear to you, all of you. You see? So, empty of these notions and simply allowing all things to come and go. The truth of our reality is apparent, but here there are no distinctions even between the unmanifest and manifest. You see? But if we are not open and empty, and we burden ourselves constantly with trying to get, trying to even understand, trying to see something, wanting some outcome, attachment to some worldly thing, you see, then with that burden, carrying that heavy weight of expectation, desire, fear, you see, then it can seem like to really look at the simplest, you see, then it seems like you're wearing a lens. You're wearing a lens which itself is very constrictive, and then trying to see that which is beyond the universe. It just does not work that way. So, what is the lens? If the lens, for example, is just what's in it for me, what's in it for me? I want freedom. It is all about my enlightenment. You see, burdened with all of this expectation, we are programmed to miss the obvious. You cannot keep going, what's in it for me? Am I getting it? Am I really getting it? Am I not getting it? When will I get it? All this kind of stuff. You see, it just seems to take you away from that which is the most obvious. In a way, it is what Krishna said, that the only thing needed is to be unattached to our actions and their outcomes. You see? So apply that to your inquiry also. is self-inquiry different from being open and empty? In a way, actually, when you are open and empty, you see, it is completely clear to you what you are. But speaking phenomenally for a moment, the inquiry like, am I aware now? Or who am I? Is helpful because many times we are not really open and empty, but we are just thinking we are open and empty. So, to give it some more propulsion, to give it some jet fuel, you see, a question like that can be thrown into the, a grenade like that can be thrown into the mix. Because being open and empty is really empty even of the notion of being open and empty. But many times we just sitting, then we just take on the mask of, oh, I'm being so open and empty, this is very nice. It's so peaceful here. You see, these kind of things. They can just come in the way and we can feel like, wow, I'm really enjoying this, you see. Then we become spiritual sightseers and we try to hold on to states. So it is about none of that. You see? So when a question comes in there, who is aware of your existence? See, then you go away from these subtle seeming mental positions and really dive deeply into your reality. But actually, if there is no position being held at all, no expectation, no intellectual boundary, no time, no space, nothing, you see, then you don't even need to ask yourself an inquiry question. You say asking who am I puts the focus internally to look for I. No, you don't. Actually, just ask who am I? The question has enough potency to do the job for you. But if you treat it this way that I must ask the question, then I must try and figure out the answer, you see, then you're just troubling your own intellect. If you feel like I'm bringing my attention inwards, you see, it is outwards, I have to bring it inside, then it's all this outside, inside is all in the intellect. You see? So actually in inquiry, eyes can be open, eyes can be closed, attention can be here, it can be there, it doesn't really matter. Because your self-recognition is not going to be a product of your attention anyway. But what you may find is that as you ask a question like this with openness, you see, and you're not personally intervening to try and get to the answer, you may find many times that attention gets absorbed in a certain way. And that is completely natural and fine. But it is not the product of some personal intention. Because with all of this personal intention comes the boundaries of what we think to be right and wrong. Then you will never go beyond the notions of inside and outside. That's why I'm saying it's important to remain open and empty and just, you see, once you've thrown the grenade in, then you don't have to do anything. Just get your mind out of the way. But when I'm open and empty, there is a lack of focus and there's a tendency to wait for the next things. You see, that's what I mean. So this is not open and empty. There is neither a lack of anything, there is neither a lack of focus nor the one pointedness of attention, independent of all of that. But I'm glad you're showing us all of this, because this is what many of us can feel like we are undergoing. You see? Like you talked about the tendency to be waiting for what is going to happen, you see? Waiting for the next thing. So just emptier than this. Like forget the meaning of focus, forget the meaning of lack. Just forget about it. Unconcerned with anything phenomenal. The mind will come and say, how can I forget? I can't forget. Da, 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 da. Just let it come and go. Become more nothing than nothing. Don't take yourself to be anything at all. Neither controlling your attention nor leaving it free, nothing. Unconcerned about whatever may show up. Not bothered with any phenomena whatsoever. Not bothered even with how attention is functioning. But because that type of openness, emptiness is rare, that is why sometimes we can use an inquiry question. Just ask, who am I? Somewhere this answer is apparent. Apparent but not expressible. And somewhere in our heads, the answer will never be found. And all our struggle has been to try and get the answer in our minds. Because in our intuition, in our heart, the answer has never been lost. So satsang is to come to that truth which has never been lost, only seems to have been because we are confused by our heads. So you said, what am I misinterpreting? If you have any interpretation, it is misinterpreted. See? There are no true interpretations in satsang. So if you have an idea about what this all means, just forget about it. What it all means is clear to you. But if it is definable, it is not what it means. You see, in a way, an analogy is coming to me about intermittent fasting. What happens when you start intermittent? Some of us have done it. So what happens is that initially, like, if you start fasting and you're not eating breakfast, you see, at breakfast time, there's this sort of wobbliness that comes. You see? You're not used to that sort of condition because you're used to having food in your stomach. You see? In the same way, when we are open and empty, that initial wobbliness can come. Because like, what are we relying on? What are we relying on? You see? Then what happens is that when there is no food in the stomach, the body starts to rely on reserves which it seemed to have forgotten it had. You see? All the reserves of stored energy, which it seemed to have forgotten it had, it comes to that and then it's clear that it doesn't need to wobble because the reserves are there. In the same way, because we came so much to rely on our minds, you see, and our minds become empty, initially that wobbliness can come. So now, what do I do? What can I rely on? How will I run my life? You see? But as you allow yourself to remain empty for a bit, you will find that true knowledge, you see, has never been lost. It is always there. You see, so it's not even like reserves, it is just what you are. It's not like you have reserves of true knowledge, but it's a good metaphor in a way. You see? So don't fear that wobbliness about if I'm not understanding what this is, then am I lost? This can be the idea. But actually, as you let go of your mental understanding of what this is, what you are, you come to your true reserves of intuitive self-knowledge, which you can never lose. You see? That's why after 1 or 2 days of intermittent fasting, you stop feeling that wobbliness. And as you get used to the naturalness of remaining open and empty, as you get used to relying on this intuitive self-knowledge, then you will not clamor so much for mental understanding and interpretations. You see, Guruji calls this the withdrawal symptoms in the rehab. Just having withdrawal symptoms from the mind. But this moving away from your head and going into your heart, which again is not an emotional heart, it is the heart of truth, it is the heart of the essence of reality. In this process, there can be some withdrawal symptoms from the head because we have relied on it for so long. This one says, "Wow, Father, thank you for saving me from wasting my time. That is my main job." That is my main job. But it is a sign of great maturity to see this clearly. You see, because many times I'm saying don't waste your time with that, you're feeling like, but that is too constrictive or something like that. Don't waste your time perception. No, no, but what about the joy? I was drowning in bliss. I want to drown. Like, just another perception. Let go. Um, as too, it's too, um, it's too bland. You see, too bland. These kind of ideas. So, but to see that really, I don't want you to waste time in this jungle of perceptions because there are many fruits in this jungle, you see, which you may think are sweet, you see, but you miss the source of that sweetness. As like Guruji says, do you want to just taste the honey or you want to be the honey? So sometimes I feel like maybe it is a very gracious but unhelpful gift if you experience a lot of joy or bliss in your inquiry. You just get attached to that fruit and forget about who am I. You feel like who am I becomes a mantra to give you bliss. Bliss mantra. And then what happens? Because everything phenomenal comes and goes, when the bliss stops appearing, you will say, inquiry stop working. And this is the nature of the mind, and that's why we have this constant repetition of things. You see, because I may keep saying truth for truth's sake, truth for truth's sake. And when you feel like, I only want truth for truth's sake, you see, and then one day you hear it and say, ah, I was full of desire, but I was thinking I want only truth for truth's sake. Full to the brim with desire, but believing that I just want truth for truth's sake. You see, that's why it is important to keep reiterating. If you want to figure out life, if you want to experience only a set of perception, then that is not truth for truth's sake. It is still a clamor for mental understanding and material desire. And we get caught up in a strange sort of spiritual arrogance. So if your friend comes and tells you, I went to play video game, FIFA 2020, and I experienced so much joy and bliss, you see, you will look down upon that one. See how materialistic of you. You see? That if you uh, did something, what you call spiritual, and you had the same joy and bliss, you say, wow, my spirituality is really working. Nothing, the same old stuff in a different garb. It has nothing to do with any of that. That's why this pointer, truth for truth's sake, really chops out all the other stuff. What are you in this for? Everything phenomenal is material. You see? So are you just in this for materialistic stuff? The mind will come and say, if not that, then what's the point of all of this? You see? And if you're just so subservient to your mind that you will dance to these tunes, you see, then it is not really about the truth. So to recognize that there is nothing tangible in this jungle of perceptions. Also, by the way, I'm not encouraging some sort of uh, attitude of aversion towards the world. Whatever is there, moment to moment, it shows up. There is joy in tasting that, but don't get attached to any taste and don't think that that taste is getting you somewhere. So, if there's a lot of bliss arising in your inquiry, don't naturally presume that your inquiry went really well. You see? And if you're, and the other way also, that if you start the inquiry and your mind is super active and lots of thoughts are coming, you see, just because the mind is full of activity, maybe lots of conditions, vasanas are getting released actually. You don't know, that might be a better inquiry. You see? So, what I'm saying is don't judge any of that, don't interpret what it means because our limited mind just does not know. And don't be a bliss chaser. You see? Because there are many worldly ways also to get that bliss. You see? And if you say, oh, this bliss is beyond, it's so beyond, you see, but it's still a phenomenal bliss which you are speaking of, then it will not last death. It will not even last your sleep state. You see? But if you are speaking about that bliss which is beyond taste, beyond any quality, where it's a struggle to even call it bliss, that bliss is the Ananda of Brahman, which is its very nature, but is not sweet or salty. It's just blissful in its neutrality. So blissful in its neutrality that you start loving this taste of water so much, the tasteless taste of water, that you will not rush after aerated drinks, even if it is branded Amrit or something like that. Many feel like the perceptual taste of this something is what they are chasing. Many get that same sense of satisfaction from trying to unravel puzzles, like figure out something. So you feel like I figured out this today. I was confused about this for 10 years. Father just explained it to me today. I'm so happy. So happy that I figured it out. But what is an offer here is not so that you can get this sort of intellectual satisfaction. I'm not giving you any true answers. I'm not here to fill your intellectual void. I'm trying to take you much beyond this limited intellect. So to recognize that this desert of concepts and this jungle of perceptions It's just a waste of time if what I really want is the truth. It's a sign of beautiful spiritual maturity for me. Did I say desert of a concept? It can feel like a desert of concept. It's not, it's really a desert. Yeah. The question comes, but what you said that when we ask who am I should not even be looking for an I. Yes, if you are open and empty and you just ask who am I, that much is enough. The only use, like in the preliminary beginning stages of seemingly looking for this I, is to see that it cannot be found in that way of looking. You see, that is the only use of it. It is not that one day that method will succeed of trying to use our attention to find a I. You see, it is to just see that wherever I may look, we've looked everywhere by now. If there's somewhere that we've not looked for the I yet, you see, everywhere the attention can go, we've looked. We've looked in the world, we've looked in the body, we've looked in our thoughts, we've looked in our emotions, we've looked in the body sensation, we've looked at our sense of being. Now there is nowhere else to look. But as we let go of this attention, you see, we see that we don't really see it phenomenally, but we have an insight intuitively about that which is beyond the functioning of attention. You see, that where attention cannot go. And as that insight is coming, it may seem like our attention is getting absorbed away from the phenomenal constructs of this world. You see? But what happens is the mind has a trump card even there, because the content of attention, which is like dark and empty over there, you see, it will convince you that that is what you found awareness to be. You see, but it is not that. It is that which is aware of even the perception of that dark and empty space. You see? So anywhere that attention can go, you cannot find it in that way. So the only point of preliminary looking in that way is to see that it cannot be done with our attention. And that's why we can leave our attention completely free. There is nowhere where you can send your attention to that you will find the self. And in fact, there is nowhere that you can send your attention to where the self isn't. You see, which is outside the self. You see? So, don't worry, it is not a conundrum. You see? Simply don't bother with your attention. If I tell you, don't think of a banana, you see, whether you like it or not, banana come. You see, unless you attain some major yogic mastery over your visualization. You see? In the same way, when you ask who am I, it reveals itself. It always is. But not in your stomach. You see? In your intuitive reserves. Not in your mind. In your intuition. You see? So the only purpose of looking with intention initially when the inquiry first comes to us is to see that with that intention in the mind I cannot find such an I, and with my attention to all perceptions, whether it is perception of complete void or complete vibrancy of the world, you see, I cannot find the self in either way. You see? So if there is still a doubt about that I may one day find it like an objective discovery using my attention, then then we can keep looking with our attention and till we come to the unshaking reality that it cannot be found in that way. You see? But if you accept my words that don't waste time in the jungle of perception, and attention can only bring you perception. It is a tool to perceive, and every perception is just a perception. Just like every thought is just a thought. No matter what you are perceiving, it is not it. In fact, this links very well with what I was saying about what you really want. Because if you are just clamoring for materialistic things which are objects of perception, as holy as the mind may make them seem, then just you're just playing and confusing yourself. You see? So what I'm offering is such good news because I'm telling you how not to waste time. You see? But if you're still attached to something, you see, you want to take that particular experience with you into freedom. You see? You want to take that particular experience with you, that particular perception with you, that particular objective attachment with you into freedom. You see? And it cannot work that way. So the only point of effort, just to complete the answer, the only point of effort in the beginning is to see that it cannot be found with effort. So you feel like you want to try it out, make all the effort that you want, make it. You see that it is not a product of some effort. It is the most effortless. You see, in fact, effort only confuses you. What are you before you decide to make the effort? That's why I say my highest pointing perhaps is before the sound of the click. Before you can decide to be the doer or not doer, make effort or not, before any of that, and truly independent of any of that, independent of any of that. Thank you all so much for being in Satsang today. Thank you all so much also because I realize that for some of you it is Christmas Eve and busy family time and things, and yet you were able to take out this time for satsang. So much gratitude for your presence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sadguru Shri Muji Baba ki
Jai. Sadguru Shri Ananta ki Jai.
Guru Kripa के बोला. Who knows a Christmas carol? Jyoti may know, living in America.
Yeah,
Which one?
everybody knows Silent Night.
Silent Night? Yeah, you can sing. Come start, we'll join.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round Virgin Mother and Child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
Very nice.
Come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant, O come ye to Bethlehem. Sing, voice of angels, glory to the highest. O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh, dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha ha ha! Off the rain, making spirits bright. Double fun and Christmas in the night. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh,